Good evening. It is 6 p.m., February the 2nd, and this is the regular meeting of the City of Menifee Parks, Recreation, and Trails Commission. I'd like, Madam Clerk, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Zimmerman,
Here.
Commission Chair Gidroyce,
Here.
Commission Vice Chair Croy,
Here.
Commissioner Rosen.
Here.
And I understand that Commissioner Holcomb will be late.
Yes.
And I would like to now have the flag salute. I'd like to ask Commissioner Croy to please lead us in that.
Right hand over your heart, ready to begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Presentations. Item 4, 4.1, Employee of the Month Award, December and January.
I'm going to go ahead and refer this over to Community Services Supervisor Jason Hendricks, and he has announcements for the last 2 months of outstanding performance by city employees.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Commissioners. This evening, I have the honor of presenting two of our top part-time employees with the Employee of the Month, one for December and one for January. I think one of them is starting to realize why he's here now. I'll try to keep it a surprise usually, but for December, we're going to ask Nick Salcedo to come on up, Employee of the Month for December.
While Nick is coming up, if the commission would like to join them up front for the photo op, we'd appreciate that.
So just a little bit about Nick. Nick currently is assigned to our Lazy Creek Recreation Center programming area. Nick really is a jack of all trades for us. He helps out with the after-school program, Tiny Tots, setting up special events, tearing down special events. We have a vacancy right now in our park attendant position for the weekends and some evenings, and Nick's filled in great for that. He helped out with Breakfast with Santa, Santa on Wheels, tree lighting ceremony, so Nick is just a great person to have on the team. He helps out at the front desk, always has a smile on his face, always willing to help out. Just a great person to have on Team Community Services. So congratulations, Nick. He's our Employee of the Month for December 2016. Actually, unfortunately, it looks like our January, this year's Employee of the Month, was not able to make it today. Sarah Eccles, she's one of our part-time staff over at the Case Nacero Senior Center. Aisha's here to support her, but unfortunately she had some car trouble and was not able to make it. But Sarah is a key player for us at the Case Nacero Senior Center, handles the tech time with staff, helps out with arts and crafts, special events. She's very creative, so a lot of the events that you go to, she's responsible for a lot of the decor. So Sarah's done a great job with the winter ball that they just had that was very successful, and we love having her on the team. So she actually had car trouble coming back, I think, from Disneyland, right? So, yeah, unfortunately she wasn't able to make it, but we'll definitely pass along congratulations to her.
Our trouble's called the 91 freeway.
We'll move on to item number 5, 5.1, approval of the minutes of the January 19th, 2017 meeting.
I'd move to approve.
I'll second.
Motion accepted. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, agenda approval or modification. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay. Moving item 7, public comment. Do we have any public commenters tonight? We do not. Thank you. That brings us then to discussion items. Item 8.1, Community Development Block Grant CDBG project proposals. And I understand from Commissioner Rosen there was some changes concerning that happened at the MCAC meeting this afternoon. So Marty, maybe you'd like to speak to that.
We were told that 2 conditions had to be met in order to be considered. One was that every person who was submitting had to appear at a workshop And they did have leniency on that with people that were in-house. One group that did submit did not appear at that workshop, and we therefore removed them from consideration. The second situation was because of a deadline. I can't remember the date, but all applications had to be submitted by a certain date by noon. And the city community services application was 5 hours late, from what I was told.
And so
And actually 5 hours and 10 minutes. But because of that, they too were removed from consideration. And the reason we didn't really want to give any kind of, we wanted to go straight by the book, was because of who the first applicant was who was being removed. And since that applicant is having a rather arduous work with the city and is likely to go to court over other issues, it was decided to just stick by the book. So both of those applicants were removed from consideration. And that just happened 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Robert.
Well, I appreciate the report back from Commissioner Rosen, and I believe there's two members of this commission that sit on that. If you can remind me who the other representative is. Okay, and so was Alti able to attend that?
He was there.
Okay, and so you're aware of information that that community service staff is not aware of, and I'll. Sure, yeah. Although, we certainly would like to know those things in advance so that we don't waste time with preparation of community services agendas, because as you can tell from tonight's agenda, that is the only thing we have to review. We could have probably saved today's meeting if that was going to be the hard and fast rule. Aside from the fact that in previous years' submittals, there was no firm time deadline, there was a day deadline. And so that certainly is a new rule that had not been implemented before. I'll certainly follow up with the administrating department about that. But nonetheless, there are 2 components tonight to review, at least. I believe what you were referring to was the public service application process. There's also I'll call it the internal capital program.
That wasn't touched.
Right. So we can certainly talk about that this evening, but we can also go over the public service application if it's the will of the commission, but I obviously don't know the outcome of the application review, so we can follow up on the rest of that.
Commissioner Rosen, thank you. Director Lennox.
I would suggest that you speak with the Director of Finance, who was present, and the person who was taking over for Margarita, and that's Alan Young, at this particular meeting.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that either. Alan Yun actually,
Until today.
yeah, he actually works for Public Works, so it sounds like there's a number of different
He was
hands
there.
involved.
Alan was there,
Mhm.
and the Director of Finance was there.
Right.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Thank you. So I think it's still wise for us to hear about the city's grant application in that, what do you want to call it, the public services portion of it, just in case it does end up getting back in. I know in the past, the MCAC has made recommendations and the city council has overruled it based on an appeal by somebody standing at the podium during a council meeting. So you could end up being right back in there again, and so it's good for us to at least be aware.
I agree. Incidentally, for the record, I just found out about this when I sat down this evening, too. The meeting with MCAC was at 3 p.m. Anybody else would like to hear the presentation?
But I just want to, the first application that was eliminated because of the fact that they did not attend the workshop that was mandatory, was Valleyway.
So then everyone else who applied followed both rules? They went to
Correct.
the workshop and were on time?
Now, the city, any city department did not have to, wasn't mandatory, the first one was not mandatory for the city departments, although nobody from community services did come, I was told. But the second part, which was the deadline for receiving applications, we were told was noon on that date. And for reasons I, of course, don't know, the application was received at 5:10 p.m.
Okay. Well, then, let's go forward with the discussion about the block grant project nonetheless, because we don't know for sure if this could circle back on us, and we'd like to hear about it nonetheless, and you guys did put a lot of work into it. If that's agreeable with everyone, we'll go forward.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
I
thank you.
agree.
Director Lennox?
Sure. For the public service application, I'd actually defer this component over to Jason Hendricks, and he can give you the overview of the program.
Thank you, Robert. So we did put together a CDBG application for a scholarship program for community services, similar to the one that was completed last year. And this is due to an increase in inquiries about financial assistance and/or scholarship programs from residents. We prepared and submitted a grant application for a scholarship program to assist low and moderate income residents with recreation and fitness class registrations under the CDBG public service category. Just a few examples of some of the programs and classes which qualified families may utilize a scholarship to register for include any of our contract classes, our Tiny Tots programs, our spring and summer camps, and one of the reasons that one we know would be very popular amongst this program is the fact that it often has a higher price tag than some of our other classes due to the fact that it's an 8 to 5 program with lunch included and a weekly excursion included. So there's a high price tag with that because we have to recover costs for that operation. So that's another opportunity for the scholarship program as well. If awarded funds for a scholarship program by MCAC, scholarships would be available to qualifying low to moderate income residents from July 1, 2017 through June 30th, 2018, or until awarded funds have been exhausted. Each individual family that would apply would be eligible for up to $100, and that's either a family or an individual, depending on how they applied for these opportunities. If approved, staff will have $100 placed on individuals or family accounts to utilize for eligible classes and/or programs. Let's see, and you'll see, if Bruni, if you could go to the second screen, please.
Jason, one moment. Marty, you had a question for Jason?
Yeah. On this staff report, where it says, second paragraph under discussion, where it says, "We'll review all public service applications for the upcoming meeting schedule January 31. A follow-up meeting is scheduled February 6. That's 21, not 6.
Yeah, that change was made today. Yeah.
As I said, 3 o'clock. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known either.
Yeah, and if I can interject here, as you can tell, the administration and management of the CDBG program is going through some changes that we are not being informed about. And I would imagine there's probably some other applicants who are feeling the same discomfort. So just so you have a heads up.
Sure.
May I just ask, were you unaware of the deadline?
We were aware of the deadline. However, that application was emailed at one point and then hand-delivered at another point. So there's some discretion here that we need to get to the bottom of.
Please do that.
Sure.
Okay. Jason, please continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Just the last points here on your screen now, you'll see the proposed applications, one of which is already an approved document that our department uses for the current CDBG programs that we have funding for. It's the self-certification form. And just wanted to indicate that both of these forms, if approved again, would be available in both Spanish and English. The self-certification form asks a variety of questions, including ethnicity, age, household size, household income, things of that nature. And again, that's something that all of our seniors have to fill out for all of our programs at the Senior Center, since it's currently a CDBG-funded program there. And then to the right of that, you'll see the application that we've proposed if this were to be granted to the department, which basically is just a guideline sheet for the applicants, which states the eligibility that is required, and then it also has the HUD income limits below there as well, so folks will know if they are eligible before going through the application process. So that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Thank you. So, Jason, you said this is a similar program to last year, and so if I'm understanding it correctly, there'd be 100 families that could get $100 each as a scholarship towards some of these dance classes and things like that.
That's correct. It'd be $100 per person or per family, depending on how they applied. Most of the times, it would probably be eligible more for families of a couple kids and parents and things like that, is what we anticipate.
Okay, and last year's program, did you exhaust all the money?
Unfortunately, last year we were not selected by MCAC to receive the funds.
What?
Yeah. So,
These guys are tough.
yeah. I believe the
Thank
Boys
you.
and Girls Club received a similar award for their scholarship program.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, then, thank you for the
you.
presentation. And Director Lennox, there was another application in there. Would you like to address that?
Sure. Actually, Joe Solano will provide the information on that, on the capital improvements.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. We actually submitted a second application. That would be for a CIP capital improvement project for the KC Center campus, and that would be for roofing maintenance and repairs. During this last rain we had a few leaks, and looks like we come from out on the if you can see on the slide. Can you go to the next slide? Just an overhead there of the KC Center campus. I had a roofing consultant up there this morning, and we were kind of looking through some stuff, and it seems like the area of concern is going to be under the tile. So our application would be to remove that tile, do an underlayment, and replace the tile. Our application asked for $70,000 to do this job. Out of that $70,000, we'll be using $64,000 because we need probably $3,000 for labor compliance. And the bulk of this work is going to be labor, taking that tile off, stacking it, and then once they do the underlayment, then we'll put it back in. The flooring, what do you call the flooring there on the white, as you see on the roof, that's still in pretty good condition. There's a couple of areas where around the drains that we'll have to kind of just clean up and redo the rubberize or the surface there. But other than that, most of our concern is going to be within the tile. So probably in a couple of weeks, I'll have a full report from the roofing consultant to give us the scope of work and kind of an estimate of what the cost would be.
Commissioner Rosen.
Just a question. This does not go through the regular CDBG grants.
Yes, I think
It goes as a,
Community development.
oh,
Excuse
right,
me.
community development.
yeah, it goes through the 313,000 that's there, not the 70. Am I
Right.
correct?
Yes,
Yeah. So this is not affected. by
Oh,
what I
good.
said before.
Good. Because we do need that
You know,
repair.
I'm just saying, it's not effective.
Oh, question for you. You don't know yet what the price is going to be. Now, if we exceed $70,000, does the city have funds for the remainder?
We do not, we do not have anything set aside now. If we did it in this fiscal year, maybe the following fiscal year, we can allocate something, we'll know the number then.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Thanks. So, this Case Inacero's roof repair, 70,000 is a portion of that community development portion, the 65% of the overall CDBG money. So what other things are we planning on doing with the remainder? Should be about 200 and something thousand still left.
That's actually a good question for the folks on MCAC, because there are other projects from other city departments that are also being submitted and considered, primarily, I think, like ADA walkways, some street enhancements in eligible areas, ineligible CDBG LMI areas.
Okay. So this, what we're seeing is one of the many proposals that are coming out of the community development portion of CDBG.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Rosen.
I even asked the question about using some of that 313,000, which is what you're talking about, dollars to perhaps build a bridge over the wash for the, and I was told that that area of Menifee doesn't qualify.
Not within the area designated for, no, it's low income, not a low income
Not a
area.
low-income area.
What do they call it, the benefit zone?
Low, moderate income LMI.
It's
eligible
not even
area.
moderate?
No, it's not.
Too bad.
I think there's a map in here somewhere. that-
Yeah, there's.
There is a map. You're right. Okay, any further questions on this discussion item?
Just a quick question. How many square feet is that we're talking about?
I don't have that hard number yet. Yeah.
What is the age of that roof?
We're going to guess, since we don't have a lot of documentation on that building, we're going to guess 1990, when the building was dedicated. So we'll go from there. But the roofer, the consultant and I look like the top of the roof looks a lot newer than that. So that's a good thing, because we won't have to spend as many funds on that white surface there, the flooring. So we'll be able to use most of that around the tile, and that's good news.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 9, Community Services Director comments. Director Lennox?
Sorry, we're trying to find the clicker.
Just do it there, Jay.
You can, if you can click that forward one. Thank you. Just a handful of items to go over as usual. Some important dates that I know Jason will go over in his update as well. We have Junior NBA Skills Competition, and then in April, Springfest citywide special event is coming up, as well as the Menifee Better Together. So Jason will go into those more. The Parks in Progress, though, I do have some substantial updates to provide. The first one is on Hidden Hills Park. I'm happy to announce that the Mylars for the landscapes have been signed and approved, which essentially gives KB Homes the opportunity now to move forward with construction. If you've driven past the site, you'll see, excuse me, they had already been issued grading plans, and were trenching and putting conduit and main line in. Now they have authorization to move forward on all the other pieces, with the exception of structures. So those are forthcoming. And the next one is on Menifee Heights. As you can see, I believe the escrow period is closed, and Party is now the new owner of that project, which is great. They're a wonderful partner for development in town. In conversations with them, they originally were looking to possibly modify the design of the park, but they've now elected to not do that. They're going to keep it as is. But I've asked them to consider providing the city with some at least infrastructure for athletic field lighting. As you'll remember from our Parks Master Plan, that's a shortage and a area of heavy demand. They are amenable to some of that. They're just going to have to sort of sift through the costs of it and determine if it's something they can do. So we're working with them to provide sort of a conceptual design on that. What that would mean is they would be able to provide all the conduit and ground, possibly even a couple controllers, which would eliminate us having to dig up all of the, all of the improvements after the fact. It saves quite a lot of money, labor, and disruption to programming. So let's cross our fingers for that.
So if they agree to that, then we could search out some grant money to get the lights?
That's correct.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Jumping down to Central Park, the second administrative adjustment appeal is set to be heard, and I guess it might be a public hearing format, but I'm not 100% certain, on the 15th, so at the next council meeting. That's obviously the appeal to the removal of some of the improvements from the park that were authored in or included in the second administrative adjustment. The next one is Evans Park site. We have had some success in discussing acquisition details with a couple of the landowners. There are 3 parcels there, as you remember. 2 of the parcels are owned by the same family, and they have expressed interest and accepted the terms of sale. Before we execute any sales agreement, though, we are doing our phase 1 environmental review, just to verify there's nothing on site that would prohibit us from making that transaction. It should take about 2 weeks to complete, and when it's done, we will then bring that back to our council for final execution. But we are well within our acquisition budget. We do have that other larger parcel to pursue the same process with, so we're getting closer. Let's see, the last one is the Pacific Communities PA 6C Park. Again, the landscape mylars have been signed and building plans are currently in review. I believe those are almost out of review and ready to be signed as well. But they have right now permits in hand to allow them to start construction. If you drive by there off of Evans, you'll see that they haven't really done anything yet. But they also are at their permit threshold, so they can't build any homes until they do the park. So we are sort of interested in understand why they haven't begun, but they're ready to go.
Can I interrupt real fast?
Mhm.
2.5 acre park, so will that have a ball field or anything like that?
No, this was the very last one. It was already approved while we were already deep into our master plan. It's a passive park. It has, tot lots and basketball court, shade structures, that sort of thing.
Thank you.
And the next one is Jason, so he can give you the update on the Recreation Division.
Yes, thank you. Just to highlight a couple of things, we had a great month again in January. But again, just to highlight a few things, the Lazy Creek After School Program started a partnership with the Menifee Arts Council Menifee. They're now doing a dance class over at the North Annex 1 day a week. That's starting to gain popularity. They're implementing that into the program. So big thanks to the Arts Council Menifee for allowing one of their professional dance instructors to work with the kids for an extra bit of enrichment there. Tiny Tots continues to be sold out every single month, every single session, so that's every single age group. We had our sports field allocation meeting this past Tuesday evening, and that was, last Thursday evening, and that was for our baseball, softball groups as the primary season and soccer, football being secondary. Things went fairly well. Groups are pretty amicable right now and working with each other, and if they don't need certain field space, they'll be willing to share with others. So we like to see those groups working together. And we did have quite a few permits this past month, mainly parties for different sports teams that were finishing up their seasons, parent versus kid baseball games, things of that nature. And then in January, we did have 2 special events. I mentioned the Senior Winter Ball that Aisha and her staff handled at the Senior Center a few weeks ago. 50 participants showed up and had a great time. They took pictures, danced all night. We had a DJ that came in and played some tunes for the seniors in attendance, and we had food donated as well. So just a great evening overall. So congratulations to Aisha and her staff. And then we did hold we played a lead role in the point-in-time homeless count last week. It was really great to see so many volunteers show up. We had 27 volunteers in total, including 7 city staff assisting and leading the different groups that had been deployed out to different locations that had been identified by the Sheriff Department. This is a very preliminary number, so please proceed with caution if relaying these numbers, but 14 individuals were surveyed, and those are not verified. It has to go through several verification processes before it's actually certified. But unfortunately, due to the heavy rain that we had the couple days preceding that, we didn't come in contact with as many individuals as we had originally hoped. But we had a lot more volunteers this year. We had support from code enforcement, the Sheriff's Department, our department, obviously, and it was just a really great morning at 5:30 in the morning to see all those volunteers shiny and ready to go. So. And then you'll see our breakdown in numbers here. We did have over 3,000 participants in all our different programs. A little lower than some of the other months where we have our big citywide special events, but still not bad for the first month of the year. And you can see our revenue numbers continue to be pretty steady. We're over $100,000 in revenue for the fiscal year already, so that's great to see. So we'll continue to work on that as well.
Mayor? Just a question.
Sure.
That same number when Valleywide was running the west side, what was it?
Do you have that info, Robert? I don't. We'd have to track that down.
We'd have to look that up. We haven't been comparing, month to month from the previous operator, but we could find it.
Depends, but you should.
Well, yes, I think we're more focused on sort of galvanizing the residents around what we're doing today, but we can easily get that info for you.
But it's considerably lower.
It was lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on to our special events update. As Robert mentioned in his director comments, we do have a great partnership that we just established, so we're able to secure. It's a junior NBA skills competition, as I mentioned at the last meeting, similar to the MLB pitch hit and run that we did last year. Totally free for the city to run. We did also establish a partnership with the Boys and Girls Club for this event. We're actually going to be holding the event in partnership with them right after their All-Star tournament that weekend of February 18th. And the great thing about that is we're already going to have some kids at a pretty high skill level there participating in their games. Right after their games are done, our skills competition will begin. So we'd like to think that a lot of that group will continue and play on in the skills competition. So really excited about that. If kids advance past our local contest, they'll go on to a regional tournament in LA. If they advance past that, they go to the All-Star game in New York City. So really cool opportunity for our community, and I'm very thankful for the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club on that.
Jason, where's that happen?
It's happening at Menifee Middle School in the gym.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And then Springfest, our big citywide event Saturday, April 8th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Easter egg hunts, pictures with the bunny, arts and crafts, jumpers, and we're going to have a petting zoo this year. So thanks to Joe and his team for allowing us to do that. We'll have some unique animals out there for the kids to experience, along with the jumpers, Easter egg hunts. So hope to see you there. The Easter egg hunt will last about 2.5 seconds, and then they'll move on to everything else. And then Menifee Better Together, the date has been finalized. Sun City Civic Association generously has offered up their area again for us. So Saturday, April 22nd from 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. Just a cheap plug here. The event is up on Just Serve now, so that's our preferred method for the Habitat anyways, who's handling volunteers to have people register. So if you're interested in assisting, please register on Just Serve. There's a job for everybody, and we look forward to even more volunteers this year. Our goal this year is 600 volunteers, so we're going to need everybody to jump on board for that date.
Commissioner Rosen?
Just one question. You were looking for animals? Are you aware of the fact that there is an elephant sanctuary in Paris?
I was not aware that we're looking for smaller animals, mini ponies, little things like that.
Small elephants. When I say small, I mean Indian, approximately 10,000 pounds each.
Wow. Yeah, wasn't aware of that, but we can look into that for the next one maybe.
I'm not kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Jason.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you, and to the staff for getting up at the crack of dawn for
Oh.
that point in time count.
Yeah, it was our pleasure. I think it went really well.
That brings us to item 9.4 or 5? 4, special event. We just covered that on 9.3 on this slide. So now capital improvements.
Good evening, Commissioners. I had one capital improvement project that I'm going to speak of, and then I'm going to pass it over to Bryce. He had a couple of them, and in-house staff. This is a project that was completed. A 5-ton AC unit was changed out at the KC Center. That did the offices and the hallway. That unit went down, I think, 4 months ago. So we had no air and now no heat within that section of the building. This job was completed in one day. They came in and disconnected the old unit. The crane came in, took the old one out, put the new one in. So that was a good job from a vendor, and I believe it was in LA somewhere. So that one of the CDBG projects that we completed this year.
From last year's program.
Yes, yes. And that's, so if you go to the next slide, I'll defer to Bryce to take it the rest of the way. These were some of his projects he had completed.
Good evening, Commission. Yes, at Lazy Creek Playground, as you can see, we completely disassembled the playground. We got it primed, painted. The red playground is now green, and the blue one stayed blue, but it looks a lot fresher, and it freshened up the park. Starting tomorrow, we'll start putting the playground back together. If you've driven by, you've seen that it was finished painted last week, but we couldn't start building on it for 7 days. We needed to let the paint cure. So that will be tomorrow. We're able to do that, and hopefully by the end of next week, we'll have the playground put back together, and then we're going to add a few new benches and everything. We'll be able to open the playground back up no later than the 17th.
That sounds really good. Are we going to have any kind of a reopening ceremony?
We weren't planning on it. I think so many people are just eager to get on it. We want to just,
Just go forward.
yeah.
All right, thanks.
On the maintenance report, you can see we're still, the monthly was 97% completion rate. We're still at 95% for the year to date for our work order system. Some of the few special projects we've done, we finished up the fencing that was at ELP Peterson. We had to add a few new posts that were torn down and actually moved to different locations when we got the new gazebos up a while back. We've added a new drinking fountain there at Pete Peterson as well. Near the dog park, we poured this concrete, ran the new water line through the park, and got the drinking fountain up and running. And then again, while it's raining, we're over at the senior center. We painted the whole hallway with the green and the beige going through there to freshen up the facility there. And then also, if you've driven around, you always see a lot of trash, everything. We have the work release program that we have as well. So we had our work release, our specialists. We've had our part-time staff one day. We went all up and down Newport Road there in front of Audie Murphy. You can see in the trucks, and then also on the Paloma Wash Trail, we've picked up as much trash as we can to clean up. So that's that.
Mentioning Audie Murphy reminds me to ask for the status on the modifications to Audie Murphy. I know it's not on here. It did come up at last night's council meeting. Maybe you could brief us on that.
Are you referring specifically to the skate park?
The skate park, yeah.
Sure. In fact, I'll defer to Joe because I think he has a more accurate timeline than I.
Yes, well, our appeals just got issued for the bathroom building, the engineering, and the fence work. The engineering work has been started. We're already in 2 weeks into the engineering phase. I've sent the restroom company the PO number so they can get the building started. We got I'm hoping a 6-week lead time. It could be 6 to 8 weeks. And the fencing itself, I sent them the PO today, and we're going to start putting posts in by Wednesday of next week, and then the panels will come in a week later for that project. We're also changing out one camera with audio out on one of the center poles at the skate park, and that requisition went in, and it should be a couple, maybe a week. I'm pushing for a week to get that up and running. Also with the infrared lights, they'll be installed at the same time.
So do we have a target reopening date?
Glad you asked. We were just talking about this in the office today. It's certainly not an official date, but we'd like to have an event planned for the 1st of March after everything's been completed. Certainly, we might be finishing all of these improvements ahead of that time, but usually when you're planning an event and trying to get people to notice, a smaller number is better. The first works best for us. So once we've confirmed that, though, we will obviously share that with the commission. So.
Okay. Commissioner Croy.
I'm excited to hear about that. I forwarded an email from Active. Are we going to be able to, I'm sure they'd be more than willing to work with us on that, advertising that.
Yeah, and actually Jason's already brokered a relationship with the shop and the manager, and they want to be involved.
Thank you for that. And thinking of Odie Murphy, I haven't been over there in a while. Is the grading by the ball field finished?
No, actually, Robert and I kind of discussed some of the design that we want to do on top of that, so I can send it up to the city engineer. He's going to help us draw out on AutoCAD and then help us with the scope of work, get that out to bid, and get that completed also. So we're kind of working on that also.
Okay. So again, a timeline on that, or just kind of open-ended?
I think it's open-ended for now. I'll know maybe by the next commission for sure, but we're looking at probably mid-March, if not sooner.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to item 9.6, LAFCO Public Hearing Update. Director Lennox.
Thank you. Just a couple of things to remind the commission of. I know most of you were able to attend, so I don't want to bore you with the I guess you could say cliff notes of a 3.5-hour meeting. But in short, the public hearing did get continued primarily because the commissioners couldn't really agree on what they'd like to see have happen, mostly because they were concerned over legal implications of detachment outcome. But they did direct staff, legal counsels from our respective staffs to confer on really the implications of the Prop 218 impacts and provide that analysis, that collective analysis to the LAFCO staff. And then that staff will then return with a resolution to formally approve the detachment depending on the outcome of those legal findings. I want to highlight a couple of things that tend to get misunderstood, really not just by the commissioners, not this commission, but the LAFCO commissioners, but often by the public, because I do keep an eye on what's being said in the media and on social media. And there's two things that really, there's two outcomes to this. We had always submitted the application under the expectation this would be a transfer of taxing authority. And in that scenario, which is number 2 under key issues on the screen, there is no vote required. You're simply saying, Valleywide, you no longer have that authority, the city does, and all those responsibilities and assessments come over. The recommendation from the LAFCO staff during the commission meeting was, though, we want to grant detachment. However, we want the city to establish new financing districts to replace the current assessment districts that Valleywide has, which would require a vote of the parcel owners. And that's very onerous on the city. We're talking well over 10,000 dwelling units. That's a big campaign. It's a big effort for really an unknown outcome because those could mean higher assessments based off of really new rules within the assessment law. So it is a lot cleaner and easier just to transfer over. And so the attorneys will sift through the Prop 218 legalities, and we will hope for the best. This is intended to come back to them on the 23rd of this month. I understand at the end of the commission meeting, after most of us left, there was discussion about the availability of some commissioners for the 23rd. I did contact LAFCO office to confirm, and at that time, which was on Tuesday, their director didn't know for certain who would be available. So there is a slim possibility they could delay it to March, but at this moment, we are planning for the 23rd of this month.
Are there any further presentations that are planned, or is it just now up to the attorneys and then they'll make a ruling?
Well, it's the public hearing itself is technically still open. So if, when they come back on the next meeting, since it's still open, that means people can still provide public comment, including us. And so my expectation, my intention is to summarize a little bit of what's happened since the last meeting to the next one, because there's some key points that the commission, I think, needs to hear and should be on record. What's discussed with legal counsel can often get sort of, swept under the rug. There's some things we want to make sure are officially part of record. So we'll want to provide some presentation to them. Brief, obviously more brief than before.
Okay. Commissioner Croy.
Well, I think Bill wanted to go
Oh,
first.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Thank you. So just from my perspective, I think it was kind of wise for the LAFCO commissioners to do what they're doing and delay it for a month. It may end up being 2 months. But really, let's get the language tidied up and cleaned up on this Prop 218 thing, because I think that if they would have been hasty and made a judgment 2 weeks ago or last week when we were there, it most likely would have been tied up in court for years and drug on. And so this prevents that. So I think it's worth it to wait for a month to save not having to wait for a couple of years. So just my thought.
It's interesting, there doesn't seem to be any precedent. Nobody brought up any other case like this statewide.
Sure, yeah. And it's true. I think the part of the argument back through our legal counsel will be that there have not been any contested situations, although many taxing authorities have transferred in this region without having to create new districts and requiring a vote. So there's plenty of precedent that suggests it's not necessary.
Yeah.
That's true.
And what I observed was that they were hesitant to do it for the legal reasons. But also, I think that one of the commissioners asked the key question is, what will happen to Valleywide? Which wasn't even the scope of the assessment that was supposed to be done, which was, I think, confusing the issue a bit. You are correct. There's been many legal precedents where the tax authority is just transferred from one part to the other. It happens frequently. So I think our legal counsel hopefully will bring those up, because it's been done.
Thank you for that. Anything further on this? Okay, well, thank you again. Commissioner reports on committee activities, item 10.
I do have a little quickie. So just wanted to let the commission know that I believe, and maybe Bryce can confirm, that tomorrow you guys might be installing a J.B. Farrell monument over at Audie Murphy Park.
Yes, we have it all dug up and ready to put in the ground. So it'll be between 7:30 and 8. We'll be over there. We're picking it up from our office at 7.
Okay.
Where Public Works is helping us out. So we're actually bringing it over. Yeah, between 7:30 and 8, we'll have it there to be able to put in the ground.
All right, very good, thank you. So
It is actually right at Audie Murphy, the sports park, at the top parking lot near the restroom building.
So James B. Farrell was the original homesteader of the property that we now know as Audie Murphy Ranch, and so he was a 1800s, and so that one's going to be placed. So I think there's 3 that have been placed now. Mott and Newport is over at Lazy Creek Park, and now this one, and so the other 3 will be going. And then, just so you guys know, Joe and I are going to get together here in the next week or so and talk about the next 6. We've got the locations picked, the Historical Association, and also the wording is all done now. So we're kind of ready to go on that and get the vendor started on the second 6 for a total of 12. So we're proceeding ahead with what I think is a pretty cool project.
Director Lennox.
Thank you. I did forget to mention something else in my comments, is that last night the council did approve the acceptance of the rebate award from EMWD for just shy of $500,000. So this is great news, and we appreciate the commission's work in trying to reprogram some of our CIP projects and funding. So that's going to be happening almost immediately. We already have a proposal for some of the We already have a proposal for some of the design work and specification work to be done. So we'll be moving that forward starting next week. And, you know, it's a multi-month project. And so as you walk around the parks, some of the areas that you see turfed right now won't be like that come summertime. So
Very good.
And if I'm not mistaken, get a move on it, because we have to have it done by what, June?
June
last of
30. June 30, yes.
Right.
So you won't see me too much around. Okay.
We'll know where to find
You'll
you.
have dirt under your nails for sure.
Okay. Future agenda requests from commissioners, item 11. Any requests? No? Okay, well, that moves us to item 12, adjournment. And so I move that we adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.